The full release update for Grounded is a few weeks behind us, and a couple of post-release patches have been added as well. But one question remains unanswered. What else will be added to Grounded in the future? There's been much speculation about what future updates could bring to the game, but today we have a much better idea because the roadmap, or in this case, feature board for the game has been updated. So here's the Grounded feature board. This can be found on the Grounded Obsidian website. I will leave a link for that down in the description below so you can check it out for yourself if you're interested. And what I wanted to take a look at here is that the feature board has been updated as promised by the developers. They did say that last week on the dev live stream they would be updating it this week, and they did in fact update it. I believe they updated it Sunday night or sometime over the weekend, because I did check it at some point after the update came out last week, and it was not updated, but it has been updated now. So what I want to do is quickly show you what's been updated. So we have the Go Big and Go Home update. This is all new. This is all the stuff that was added in the 1.0 update. I'm not going to go through all these things. You can obviously read them for yourself. There's nothing in here that you haven't already seen. For the future, I've currently hidden. That's what we're going to be looking at in just a second. And then below, if you want to go down here, you can take a look at all the previous updates. Again, I'm not going to go through all those. But what I want to do is talk about the For the Future section. And before I do that, what I want to do is show you a couple screen grabs I took from older versions of this feature board, just to show you what was on there. So here's a screen grab I took from one of my previous videos. This is a couple months ago. And I will say that this was not what it looked like when I checked it the other day. There have been some changes to it, but I want to quickly just show you some of the things that were saying coming soon and planned. Now, the things in blue were already in progress, so of course we know that the story is basically completed in the 1.0 update. There's some graphic changes. The story is complete. I don't know why it says Story Act 1, a fully completable story, but basically those are the same things. Additional crafting stations, the cookery was added at some point, so this was probably before the cookery was added. Additional Burgle quest types. They did add some variations of the existing quest types, but they didn't add any new quest types. I was maybe expecting something like crafting things outside of just the armor and weapons, maybe collecting resources to get the Burgle, but basically they did add some the ones that are like the artificers, so crafting the new weapons and armor, and then also defeating a certain number of some of the new insects, and some of the older insects were added. So I guess you could check that off. Additional weapon types, of course, there were new weapons added in the 1.0 update, which are slight variation. They basically do the same type of attacks, or they fall under the same attacks. They're different weapon types as in the past. But I guess you could say the Mantis Scythe is a new type of weapon, even though I believe it does slashing damage. There's the Tick Sword that is called the Tick. It's basically a Tick Bat, and that's also going to fall under the sword category as well. So there are additional weapon types. Storage improvements, of course, they did one of the hot patches. They added the ability to sort our chests and as well as our backpacks, so that has been added. The Air and Pheromone Control and the Ant Queen, they were not on the most recent revision of this before the current one that's up there. So when I checked it the other day, these weren't on there. I think they had been taken off quite a while ago. Of course, if you've seen some of my shorts or other videos in the past recently, you'll know that the Ant Queen was going to be in the game and ended up getting cut. I'm not sure at what point it was cut. It may have been cut right before 1.0. It may have been cut long before that. There's screenshots for it in my Discord if you want to check those out. There's a link for that down in the description below. And Pheromone was in the game a long time ago during one of the public test servers. It was in creative. You couldn't actually craft it. I believe the Ant Pheromone Control was going to do one of two things. Either you be used to summon in the Ant Queen, because we know some of the bosses have summoning items that we have to use, or it might have been something to do with maybe controlling the ants in some way. Then we have the higher tier armor, tools, and weapons. If you've played the 1.0 update, you know that tier 3 is the max. There is no tier 4, so this did not happen. Insect pen enhancements. There were something for the pets have been improved over time, so I guess you could say this has happened. I mean, they basically still function the same way. There is an additional pet, so I guess we'll just say that happened. Bird improvements, additional interactions. I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean. There was no additional interactions. The bird just drops feathers. I don't know if maybe they improved performance of it or something like that, but that's this one. So let's take a look at some more features that were on this feature board back when I took the screenshot. So here's another screen grab from the same time period, and you're going to see these are for the future. These are things that were not in the game, were not basically in progress. So we have additional backyard environments. Of course, that's happened because we have the upper yard. We have additional creatures, insects. That has happened. Weather has not happened, and basically weather has not happened, right? I was expecting that might be one of the secret features for 1.0. Did not happen. Backyard changing events. Outside of there is a backyard change event. So of course, plug in the haze. There's also one in the 1.0 update, which I'm not going to spoil for anybody who hasn't played through the 1.0 update. There is something that happens at some point that will cause something that will basically add some additional creatures or types of creatures or variations of creatures into the backyard. Additional crafting materials, of course, the new bugs brought new parts. Base blueprints, power buildings, that was not added in the 1.0 update. More control over your world option settings, that did get added. They gave us a lot of customization, which is cool. Base blueprints, defenses. They did add there's one trap they added in the 1.0 update. Besides that, they did not add anything. Base blueprint framework for player-generated gameplay has not happened in the 1.0 update. Higher tier structures, they did have the ash walls, so that did happen. and base blueprint decorations. I guess this covers everything like stuff, bugs, and stuff like that. So that's, I guess, I don't know if any of that there, we did get extra pictures in the 1.0 update. Then down here, of course, we have the dedicated servers. We know they added shared worlds, but dedicated servers were, well, this was definitely still on the feature board recently when I checked it a couple weeks ago. So now let's take a look at the actual feature board and compare that to what we saw just here. So real quick, what I want to do before I click on this to reveal what they're actually planning, this has been updated. I did check it before I started recording, obviously. I want to give you just a couple of seconds to think about things, what we just saw and what you think might be coming. So I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds and just think about features you might want to see added, maybe some creatures, new weapons, anything along those lines, things that you know have been suggested or maybe you thought after you played through the game, things you would love to see happen that maybe were mentioned previously as I was talking in this video, or other things that you know community suggested or might have been talked about. So I don't want to waste any more of your time, so let's just click on here to see what the future plans are. So the future plans are quality of life and additional base blueprints. That moment of silence was intentional. I want you to let that sink in, that the feature board, and I will tell you the other day when I checked it after that update came out, there were still quite a few things on there. Not as many as I just showed you, but there were quite a few items on there. I can assure you there were not just 2. I'd love to have a screenshot of that, but unfortunately I don't. But basically what this is telling us right here is kind of what I believed all along. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not great to be, most of the time you like to be right about things. In this case, I'm actually kind of upset that I was right about it. My prediction all along was post 1.0, based off of the information that the developers had been giving us, the way they've been talking, the things they've been saying, I didn't expect very much post 1.0 content. They already said that the story was going to be complete. They did not plan on adding any additional story content. Last week on the live stream, the game director said that, or maybe it was the week before that, I think it was the week before that, he said that there was not currently plans to add any new bugs or armors or weapons or anything like that. What they have said they were going to be doing, of course, is improving the game in terms of bug fixes, quality of life stuff. Maybe they'll do some more sorting stuff like that, or they're going to do performance optimization, hopefully, because multiplayer is still not in a great place. It could be better. And then, of course, the additional base blueprints, I kind of think what this is leading me to believe is this is probably going to be the stuff bugs that they haven't added yet, as well as the additional wall mounts. So they did say that they were going to try to add stuff bug variations for every bug in the game, as well as the wall mounts, because right now there's only maybe like half or something like that. I don't even know the total number. There's a lot, but there's many that, especially all the new bugs, don't have any of those options. This could also mean some of those other things we looked at before, maybe the power buildings, maybe the defenses. They did say they had some ideas for some traps. I'd love to see that for the base defense portion of it. But overall, I'll be honest, when I saw this, I didn't actually believe it. When someone showed a picture of it, I was like, that can't be real. And then when I went over and checked it myself, this is kind of what we get. So I guess where this leaves me is I'm enjoying the 1.0 update. I know I've seen a lot of my videos. If you've been watching my shorts specifically, you might think that I've been not enjoying it. The things I show in my shorts, kind of like cheesing stuff and things like that, and just talking about ways I would improve the game. I do that not because I dislike the game. I actually love the game. I have 1,000+ hours in it. I do that because I'm hoping that the developers will see it and maybe improve upon the game. Hopefully, at least some of those things can be worked out. Hopefully, the bug AI can be worked out a little bit. Maybe some other things like glitches, like bugs popping out of rocks, things like that. Hopefully, those things will be addressed in the future, as well as additional things. Maybe just kind of like smoothing out the story, because I do believe the progression, it just kind of feels off with the new content. The old content feels good, but the new content just feels it just feels off in some way. It just doesn't feel as smooth as the previous part. The additional base blueprints, I really hope they add base defenses. That would be, or more base defense options, because to be honest, that final defense is brutal. And even the super mixers are pretty challenging. And honestly, the real only strategy that I came up with for those, as well as the final defense, is basically just to build as many walls as possible, because there's really not that many trap options. And honestly, that's just the best way to do it, is just spam as many walls and hope the enemies don't get through before the time runs out. So honestly, them updating this kind of gives me it just kind of reaffirms what I was thinking before, where once the game came out and once they started working out any post 1.0 or 1.0 bugs and glitches, stuff like that, once that got cleaned up, I kind of thought that they would probably be moving some of the developers onto other projects, and that unfortunately we would not be seeing additional content. There's plenty of things I'd like to see. I mean, I'd love to see, at the very least, they could add in the bosses that were cut, like the Ant Queen or the Lizard that we've saw, and maybe some others. Those could be added without impacting the story. They could be just optional bosses, kind of like how the Broodmother and the Mantis, they're completely optional bosses, as well as there's another boss that's completely optional as well. So 3 of the 5 bosses are optional. You can completely skip them and still beat the game. Adding a couple additional bosses, especially because it looks like the places on the map were already in place for them. Under the castle, the sand castle was supposed to be the Lizard. They could just open up that rock or make it where we can get under it. the Ant Queen was supposed to be in the Fire Ant Hill. There's a kind of a rock blocking a cave where it looks like she was supposed to be, or I believe where she was, in the dev build that was leaked a few months ago. So I think they could just open those up and add them in if they want to. It doesn't really look like they're going to do that right now. So I guess the future right now looks kind of bleak. If you were looking for more content, I guess my advice to you is to just do what I'm doing. Play the game as long as you enjoy it. I'm enjoying 1.0. I'm about to finish up my solo playthrough. I'm going to probably start a WoW mode playthrough in the next week or two. And then I just started a fresh save with my kids multiplayer. So we'll play through that as long as they want to, as long as they're having fun with it. We'll play through that, hopefully get through the whole game. Might play some multiplayer with some friends on stream as well. But I'm going to at least enjoy the game for a couple more weeks, kind of try out all the new weapons and armors and kind of just enjoy it for as long as I enjoy it. And then when I'm done enjoying it, then I'll just move on to something else, just like all you can. So let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Hopefully you found this video informative. If you did so, make sure to hit the like button. And here's another video you might find helpful as well.